What is going on YouTube? Fascinating graveyard. Today here on this hazy, windy day in Baltimore, Maryland, we are at the Holy Redeemer Cemetery. And we're going to visit the grave of one Henry Gunther. He holds the distinction of being the last American killed in World War I. So let's go back to the early 1900s in Europe. You had several countries in Europe vying for power. Now, from the last war of those times, going to the early 1900s, the 19-teens, you had at least 10 or 12 countries in Europe vying for power. Military technology had improved dramatically. So you had Germany, whose navy was advancing at a very rapid pace, and it was making countries like France and Great Britain very, very nervous. You had some hostility. People are trying to make weapons, improve on weapon technology as quickly as they can to one up on each other and the country beside them. And of course, you have the great motherland known as Russia, and everybody's racing against them. June 28th, 1914, a day that will live in infamy. The Archduke of Austria, Franz Ferdinand, he was the heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire. An ad in the paper states that the Archduke is going to be visiting, and it even has in the newspaper the route that his motorcade is going to take. Now, some secret members of a military clandestine organization called the Black Hand, they were basically military members from the Kingdom of Serbia at the time. They had conspired to assassinate him. So as Ferdinand's motorcade is going down the street, several dozen assassins start lobbing bombs at his vehicle. They all miss their mark. That act of the assassination attempt failed. He escaped unharmed. Later on, he went to the hospital to visit the police officers that were guarding him that were blown up by the bombs. Come to find out later on, he leaves the hospital and he goes down the street, and what do you know, one of the assassins that failed at lobbing a bomb at his car, seen him, took out his gun and shot and killed Archduke Ferdinand and his wife, Sophie, the Duchess of Hohenberg. You have about a little bit time later, a few weeks, and the Australian army, they invade Serbia. Voila, you have World War I. Over an estimated 16 million people lost their lives in that war. That was a very, very bloody war. Finally, all sides come to an agreement, and on November 11th, 1918, the armistice is signed, basically a treaty between everybody. It is signed on that date, November 11th, 1918, at 5 a.m. Now, the treaty is not supposed to take place or start until 11 a.m. that very day. So let's say you're a German officer or a French officer or an American officer or a Serbian, whatever side you're on, Russian. By the time the sun comes up, 8, 9 a.m., everybody knows this treaty is going to start at 11 a.m. Nobody's firing their guns, but everybody's watching each other because, we're all waiting for that one knucklehead. Maybe somebody will do something stupid. I'm watching you, you're watching me, he's watching me. Hey, those guys over there, they're watching me too. Hey, I'm watching you. But we both know 11 a.m., we're both watching each other. Nobody's firing a shot. All is calm, all is quiet. Except for in the motorcade of a troop of American soldiers and one Henry Gunther, who is a part of that troop. Now, 10:58 a.m., according to historical documents, Gunther is riding in a vehicle and sees a roadblock with German soldiers behind with 2 machine guns. They are in the French town of Chaumont-devant-Danvier. Gunther tells his sergeant, hey, do you want me to get out there and clear the roadblock? And the sergeant says, no, what are you talking about? We just signed the armistice. We're in about less than 5 minutes. There's going to be no more war, kid. What are you doing? He ignores the orders of his sergeant. He gets out and starts charging the German roadblock. Now these guys, they're speaking to each other in German. They're like, what the hell is this guy doing? And they start waving him off. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, go back, go back, go back. He lifts up his rifle to fire a shot at the roadblock, and the Germans just said, the hell with this, and they just unloaded their machine guns, practically just blowing him away, killing him instantly. Their smoking machine guns stop, and they just killed this American. Now they're going, great, now we're gonna have a firefight. Now they didn't. They wave, they waved them off. Hey. They retrieve his body. He was killed. On record, I believe it is, some records say 10:58, some records say 10:59. But he was killed 1 or 2 minutes before the start of the treaty. Now, I'm sure you're asking yourself, why in God's name? Why in God's name did this guy do this? I would simply say I have no idea. Now, there is a couple theories out there. Number one, he had just lost his rank as sergeant. In his military troop, he was a supply sergeant, and he was demoted to the rank of private after writing home a letter talking about the deplorable conditions that existed where he was at in France. I guess the military at the time were screening everybody's letters. They caught him, they seen what he wrote, and they demoted him. And that was something that he couldn't live with. Also, there is another, I don't know if you call it a rumor, but supposedly his fiance broke up with him. So when your fiance breaks up with you from overseas, 6,000 miles away, I guess that's liable to set any man off. And that is possibly what set him off. Originally, he was buried in a military cemetery in France, but his mother, Lena, wanted him brought home to America. So I believe in 1921, his remains were shipped back to the United States and buried here at the Gunther family plot here in Baltimore, Maryland. Quite amazing to say the least. When I read that story, I simply had to come and show you his grave really quickly. And I know that I didn't give a total history on World War I. I mean, that'll be another video for another time. If you look some information up online, World War I, it was quite confusing. It was almost like a soap opera of basically several different countries wanting to have bigger ships, a bigger army, more guns, bigger guns. It was just a quest for unbridled and outright power, especially behind the scenes of the German military, which later they were absolutely decimated, but they would unfortunately come back and start off World War II. Anyways, guys, just a fascinating grave. Sgt Henry Gunther, by the way, posthumously, he was given his rank back of sergeant, and he was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. Again, what possessed this man to do that? Did he think that his supposed act of valor, or whatever word that you want to call it, would give him back his rank? Did his fiance telling him from 6,000 miles away to some, godforsaken hellhole that she was no longer gonna see him when he came back, so he had nobody to return to? Who knows? Who knows what happened? But anyways, rest in peace to this young man. He was only 25 years old. Excuse me, 23 years old. My math was wrong right there. 23 years old. And yeah. Thank you for your service, sir. In hindsight of the decision that you made, hey, you still served and served valiantly. This guy, let me tell you something before I end the video. This guy was a runner up until he was killed. A runner, basically what this guy would do is deliver messages from the front line of wherever they were fighting at to the next platoon over yonder the hill. So imagine having to run with a letter that's very, very important over those hills while having machine guns firing at you. So this guy had a lot of cojones to do that job. So rest in peace to Sgt Henry Gunther. Okay guys, fascinating graveyard. I'll catch up with you on the next vlog. God bless. Peace out.